good morning, Khan. How are you? How are you today?
Well, good morning. Wonderful, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. I've just had a massage to get rid of all my aches and pains from 20 years of sitting in front of computer screens, and a haircut as well.
Yes, what is that? Do tell me. You mentioned that a few times. Do mention that. What I have to readjust the screen a little. Looks like
Okay.
I'm not centered.
No, well, I think, the problem is when you've spent that long in front of trading screens, as I did in my early years, 12, 14 hours a day, and you can develop a lot of problems, posture problems mainly, shoulders, that sort of stuff, and can become very painful. And your health suffers as a result of that. And recently, I just started. I met this person who said about a masseur. They do sort of sports injuries, sort of massage, deep tissue stuff, and that sort of stuff. And so I've been going to her, and it's been marvelous, absolutely marvelous. I can move my head around now. I feel much more energetic, and
Okay.
I'm not sitting in pain. So yeah, it's been a very good experience indeed.
Okay, well,
You can see
great.
it. You can see this beaming smile on my
There.
face because it makes me feel quite good when I come back. And it's funny because it's the next day you feel even better. Then the bit of pain you've got, residual pain that she leaves you with, leaves you, and then you feel even better the next day, as it were. And then, but anyway, listen. This has been
There you go.
I'm really
Yes.
pleased to, really excited about catching up with you, finding out how things are going on. The exercise with the contracts has been just marvellous for a lot of students. Been really good. I've had some great feedback and stuff. So tell me about you. What's going on? All right.
And I'll recenter. Okay, well, we'll just carry forward. So where we are, it's hard to really explain.
All right.
To be frank, I was just trying to take some notes down to make some heads and tails of how to even explain this.
All right.
But one thing I could certainly say is every single error that any and all the students have mentioned that they are going through or have made or you have mentioned feels like I've gone through it.
Okay.
Not a great thing, but I've
Right.
gone through it.
Right.
And I worked through either I have had worked through them beforehand
Yeah.
or as the students have mentioned their issues, I was just working through it or have worked through it. So, well, that's not a great thing, I guess. I mean, you don't want to fall in every little pothole that comes your way.
All right.
But the upside is, as always, the challenge has always been, the biggest challenge for me has been particularly that I have to trade when I'm available, which is not a whole lot often. And if the market is ready to go at that point, then it's great. And when it isn't, now you end up missing the whole day.
All right.
As a result, I feel in order to trade in those kind of circumstances, one needs to be far more proficient to get going even, as opposed to someone who has more time and can look at the screen and wait for setups, which are a little more easy to begin with,
Yeah.
as you get into more difficult times and looks where the market might be. Uh, so, so the tough part is that there's mixed success. I know the success is there. For
Yeah.
example, on the GBP, I missed it today. It was a 180 move. It was just a matter of 5 minutes, and I missed the move.
Yeah.
So it's just slipping through the fingers. It's there. It's just there. And the contracts are helping because I've made another contract with myself, which is part of it, which I mentioned.
Yeah.
And part of my contract is, of course, 100 pips, but how to get to 100 pips. So I am no longer trading full cycles. I only trade half cycles
Okay.
for manipulation reasons and such. So when I see something, if that's what it is, then I just take the half cycle and out I go, knowing it may still go forward, it may still turn.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk it. And so I just take half cycles. Did that on Monday. I was stopped out overnight for 22 points, and I made those points up.
All right.
And knowing that I probably would continue, I didn't stay in the trade. I got out because it could have turned. It anyway. So for that risk, I kept with the contract and I didn't violate the contract, knowing that it was a good chance it may still continue. Because it wasn't 100% certain, I got out on the half cycle.
Okay.
So that's really where we are at this
All right.
stage. No consistent success.
Right.
But I know it's there. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of these minor little things clicking.
Yeah. Well, you are up
That's
against
really
it.
it.
You are
There's
up
not a whole
against
lot.
it. You're up against it with your time factor. That because obviously you if you're not around when those going, say there's 10 market moves, and if you're only present at 3 of them, that's a problem because you're missing all those good moves, as it were. But your life circumstances are dictating that. So for you, in a way, you can have all this skill and you can develop all this skill and know what you're doing. But of course, there comes a point where you've got to transition, haven't you, to getting more days, more trading days in your life, as it were, to other working days. And of course, that's a difficult thing to juggle because it's sort of an all or nothing. And you're not alone. You know that there's a few other students who are in this same situation. I've got an Australian chap who actually does. I think it was the last interview he came on where he does 6 days on, or 6 days on, I think, 2 days off, and then a 6th day on again, and horrendous work hours. So and he's doing okay, but it's going to take him a lot of time to get to that position where he can say, okay, I now want to do this full time, as it were. So it is a tough call. It's definitely a tough call. There's no
I'll
real
share
easy
just
answer.
for whoever. I'll share just another piece, which I am sure somebody's bound to be in this situation. If you recall from the previous interviews, the first one particularly, where I may have seemed a little down because I was right at that cusp or the crossroads or the fork in the road to figure out, well, which way am I going here? Am I going to continue with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I was right at the crossroads, like, okay, this is going to take more time,
Right.
and so I need to make a decision. And the challenge of it was, I got into that. Remember the need and want video that you made?
Yes.
The trading had become, I made the trading my need. And
Yeah.
as a result, a tremendous amount of pressure followed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good. And
Yeah.
so I had to back out of it. I had to rewind out of it.
Yeah.
So I moved forward with the work that I was keeping a stop on for the last 4 years, or 3 to 4 years. So I moved forward with that. So both work at this stage, trading and my actual vocation, is moving forward at the same rate.
Okay.
So I don't know if you follow. So all the extra work that I was hoping to avoid, I'm neck deep in it now, on both sides. So trading, yeah. So trading is improving, of course, as
Yeah.
I just mentioned.
Yeah.
And the other work is also, we're just going through and working on it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, making any and all mistakes that one could perhaps and possibly go through,
Yeah.
Guilty as charged, doing
Yeah.
them.
Okay.
And learning a great deal in the process. So
Yeah.
just hopefully the results will be that much sweeter at the end.
Yeah. Well, talk to me a minute about the contract concept. What we've been doing with the contracts. What have you gained by having this contract? You've done a couple of contracts now. What has been the benefit to you, as you see it, by having a contract? Or if let's put it another way, if you're quite positive about it, how would you explain it to another student? The value of having a contract. What would you have to say about it?
That's a tough one to answer because everyone's situation obviously would be different, and I guess I could just explain my own personal one and see if anyone else can relate to it.
Okay.
Okay, so my times. So you would need a little background, I would think, to understand this. So I'm New York time, and I look at the market late at night. Late at night would be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, up until then. That's pretty much the max I can stay up. Not all days, but a few nights I could do it. And then in the morning, you of course get up and there's the ruckus in the house and such. And so I have maybe a half hour to look at the market to let the sense of knowing come in. So part of the learning was finding the schedule. And I fought a lot with, okay, morning times, when and how, and evening times, sleep early, sleep early, wake up early. So I've gone through all those different scenarios to come up with the following solution. And this took some months to really tweak these hours. So the hours are what I just mentioned, late nights, and then early morning, just look at it. I have good about half hour, 40 minutes to look at it to get the SOK to come in. And once that's in, and there's a difference. One is I see it and it pops at me, which isn't the SOK. The real SOK is when I just sit and I relax and I shut everything else out.
Right.
It's like there was as out of a baseball movie you may or may not have seen, or some of some of the students may have seen. It's like the the I like the line. It says, "Clear the mechanism." The guy says to himself, and all the noise in the stadium just goes out, and he just sort of gets focused on what he has to do with the pitch that he has to deliver. So. For me, that ends up being, it's like, okay, I'm just here, I'm just looking at the screen, everything else just shuts out, and that's when the SOK for me hits.
Right.
Not just I see it, I see where it's going, not that. That isn't the true SOK. So when that comes in, that's when I trade, knowing which way it's going to go, and that little time is when I can place a trade. And once I place the trade, I only place a trade for half cycles, and that is it. That is the rule.
Yeah.
Knowing that it may go longer, it may come back, it will manipulate at times. Since I can't track it that well during the day hours, that's all I'm left with, and which
Okay.
is fine. And I think that idea will work, and that's where we are with it currently as we speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
I don't know if that helps any.
No, it
but,
does. It does help. It does help because
that's-
you're giving your perspective on the contract, and that's a very important thing. Now, I've obviously read a lot of contracts now, so I've got the students that come back. I've read some of the contracts.
Sure.
I've read most of the contracts, well, pretty much all of them, and I put them to one side. And then when I hear from them, I go back through the contract and sort of see where the students at, as it were. And what's becoming apparent, and became apparent very early, was the effect of the given quantity of pips to achieve. And what I wanted to talk about, as what I wanted to talk about on the next show, maybe some other people, but was how, or why was this so effective? Thinking to the brain, why was this so effective for so many students to suddenly turn their trading around? And it has been a complete transformation for a handful at least, a complete transformation, where they've just gone and consistently now produced profits every week. And what came back was that was a complete mental shift about what trading was. So in other words, when they didn't know this would occur until it happened, but just supposing they chose 50 pips or whatever it was, what they discovered was that when they'd achieved the 50 pips, everything changed. Now, they felt frustration that they couldn't trade the next day. They really did, because they saw the moves, but they stuck to it. And these are the people who absolutely stuck to their contract. So regardless of what they did, they stuck to it. Now, interesting enough, most of these people made their pips within the first 1 and 2 days of the trading contract, and that was it.
Sure.
And then these lovely emails came back and said, I've spent more time with my family, I've had so much free time to do, I've been doing this, and doing this. They've been doing things with their life that they never had any time to before the contract. So the contract gave them a life period outside of trading. And it was that happened. And interestingly, at one case where the next week the points were raised, and again, first thing on Monday, all the pips were achieved. The whole week was then taken off. And he said it's so counterintuitive. But there's another thing that I think is at play here, and I think it's a very important thing, which maybe a lot of us miss about this. Trading can often be seen as an open-ended contract, an open-ended thing. It's like you have a job to do, or you have your job, you go to work in the morning, let's say you have a normal job, you go to work in the morning, you clock in, that's the time when you get to work, and you get to the end of the day and you clock out, and that's your work period. And you know, your psyche knows, your whole being knows that this is what is expected of you. This is your routine, as it were, and it knows that when it gets to that time, it's a turn off, and then you go and do the other things that you want to do with your life. And if you think about trading in that context, it's open-ended. It doesn't sort of have a real beginning, and it doesn't have a real end. Now that causes, I believe, can cause a lot of problems for a trader on a mental level, because there is no finish line. There's, yes, I want to make $1 million, yes, I want to make $10 million, but there's no finish line on a not necessarily even on a daily basis. There's no finish line on a psychological level. So the mind can ramble. It can go into this free-flowing rambleness of trying to achieve something on a path to whenever, how it gets there. And I think there's that the mind can struggle with a lot. So what I introduced the contract was to say, this is your contract week, or this is what you have to do. So you're telling your mind, as it were, and I was quite particular about this. I want you to handwrite it, you want you to sign it, it's a binding contract. So that when you sit down to trade, the contract's there in front of you, you have a task to do. That's all you have to do, is to do this task. So the mind says, okay, let's get this job done, and then we can go off and do something we want to do. And that, I believe, has been the real benefit of the contract method of trading, is by simply having that start and that finish line. Well, it's more, I suppose it's more like a finish line, because obviously you don't know when you're going to start trading, but you have this finish line in terms of pips achieved. Now, does that make sense to you? I mean, you know a bit about psychology with your teaching, your tennis and all that sort of stuff. Does that make sense to you?
100%. That's really how the work is set up, or even salespeople. It's the same thing. There's a number, you achieve the number, and you finish for the day.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me? Something's changed in the sound system again.
No, I'm all good. I can hear you.
Martin?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Fine.
Yeah.
Okay, your volume, your voice just shut up.
Okay.
So, turn that down.
All right.
Okay, so yes, absolutely, 100%. That there has to be an end, an end in sight, to say this is what I have for the week, and each week is beginning and then finish, and that's and then then you're done.
Yeah.
Salespeople go through the similar thing, and they have to be able to. Otherwise, it's just
that's right. It starts to fall down, doesn't it? And you know, it's interesting, Khan, that the people, obviously, I had people come back who broke their contracts. Some of them achieved their pips straight away, like Monday or Tuesday, that was it. And then Thursday, Friday, oh, there's a wonderful opportunity. They went straight back in and traded. Some of them made a few more pips, but a few of them didn't make. They lost the first lot. The whole thing became very stressful. What happened was they had broke the contract. And then the next week, when they started doing the contract again, this contract doesn't have the same effect, does it? Because you've broken this contract. It's a null and void. And so, and a few of these, I said to these, right, go back, rewrite your contract, through the first one up, redo it, re-sign your contract, and start again. And you know what, still, some of those actually broke the contract again. So they made the pips earlier in the week and broke it again. And so you have this process that it's where some people can get it and they do it and they can go off and then do this other thing with their life, do what they want to do. It doesn't really matter what they want to do. But what I've tried to get across here, it's not what you do after, it's not about the amount of money you're making, it's giving you, your psyche, your personality, whatever we want to call it, a task to do, complete the task, and move on to something else. And that's the essence, and that's why I wanted to do this interview today, because I know you've done your contract, you stuck with it. Now, did you actually stick with your contract, or did you break it at any point?
I started late. My contract has been shifting in the past. I'm not a good example to follow in this one. I'm not a good example to follow to that point, only because my contract was shifting. My contract in the past was, I'm going to trade from this time to this time.
Right.
You know, that's a kind of a contract too.
Okay.
I'm only going to look at not 4 or 3 markets. I'm going to only look at 1.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to start to follow 2, and I'm going to. So different kind of things I've gone through. So now I'm sticking with the 100. As well as the other point that I mentioned.
Yeah.
So we will know in the next week to 2, see how things go.
But
missing today's opportunity, for example, was.
No, go on, carry on. Missing today's opportunity.
So, for example, Monday broke even with the points I was going to make. Tuesday couldn't trade. Today was the golden opportunity to complete everything for the week. In fact, found the second pair to work with, and missed that opportunity as well. So I was quite miffed, as you can understand. So tomorrow is, the week's winding down, and I still haven't made what I have to make, and there were missed opportunities, which was very annoying today.
Yeah,
it really got me upset. But I also knew then I was so close, and it's okay. Yeah. And that's the other side. I'll just piggyback on what you said earlier about the subconscious thing. We can call it whatever we want.
Yeah.
Our soul, your guiding light, whatever term you want to name it. And it really is the two of us involved. And that contract needs to be upheld. And if it's not, the guiding light, if you wanted to give that a name, goes away.
Yes.
Slowly goes away. And if you break it again, it goes away again. It's just like a friend you have.
Yeah.
And a friend who accompanies you. And if you're nice and kind to that friend and you build that friendship up, then it will help you, or he or she will help you.
Yes.
And if you are not, then it goes away. And slowly it dies away or goes away. The relationship cuts down.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's a good way to explain that. To a point, to a degree where you completely lose that guidance and you have to rekindle that light again for yourself. So See if that makes any kind of sense to
Well, let me just tell you,
students
Carl.
or to you.
Let me just tell you, Carl. What you've just said was the essence of everything I wanted to get out of this interview. Okay, that's the explanation that you've just given. Then is the perfect explanation.
Good.
I was hoping it would come from somebody else. I knew what I know what that is. I instantly recognise it. But yeah, this is a beautiful analogy that you used. The friend going away, and I really like the bit you've said about by getting it back. You have to start from ground zero again. You've got to build that trust again. You know, you abuse a friend, you break a friendship. It takes time to build that trust back up. And this is a beautiful analogy. That's exactly what it is. And I'm sure that's going to actually pull a lot of chords with the students when they hear this. They're going to think, you know what, this actually makes a real lot of sense. And this is what I've been doing wrong. And you know, this is what I need to do. So we're sticking with the contract concept. We're going to carry on with that because it's just going great. And yeah, we'll carry on from there, and and the next interview will lead into that as well, hopefully as well.
Okay, I look forward to it. Well, we're
Okay.
plugging away still. Personally, as I mentioned, we've gone through a long journey to really get to this stage, and
Yeah.
made a great deal of mistakes
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we are. Hopefully, we'll have some more news for you next time.
Yes. Okay. Well, take care, and we'll catch up soon. Love to all the family. Take care.
Certainly. All right. Thank you, Martin.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.